This is the second of a two-part series on what Vanguard looks like. This is what Vanguard can look like from a mentor's perspective. The first thing you want to do as a mentor is really consider those that you are mentoring. Whether it's your students or children, there are certain principles that you feel like they should learn. For instance, diligence, integrity. I guess not principles, those are virtues, but here's a principle. Diligence can make me happy, or integrity can increase my freedom. These are principles or truths that, when deeply seated in their hearts, will affect their area, affect how they influence the world and how they live their lives. With Vanguard, you want to take these principles and then you want to see which area of impact, of the 7 areas of impact, that virtue or that principle can be applied. So for instance, this last summer, my kids read some epic books. War and Peace, well, they each read a different one. War and Peace, Count of Monte Cristo, Les Miserables, and the Lord of the Rings series. And as we had a discussion at the end of the summer, we talked about what they learned from that. And I drew from that discussion 7 principles that I felt would apply to those 7 areas of impact. I've also referred to those 7 areas of impact as 7 pillars, or the 7 monthly themes, but they're this. The first month is happiness. What does it look like? How is it? How can I find happiness? The second month is freedom. How can I preserve my freedom, which affects my happiness and the world around me? The third one, please refer to my video about these for more in-depth discussion on it, because I cover it better there. The third one, again, is work and property. What can I do to be responsible with my work and property? The fourth one, what is my relationship with God? The fifth month is how do we create service-oriented leaders? The 6th month is what is my responsibility? Well, how does society function best together? And the 7th month is what is my responsibility as a citizen now? Now that I've created this awesomeness within me, what should I do with it? So let me show you an example of how to take those principles and apply them to a month. One of the principles that came up a few times was an admiration for the characters and how diligent they were towards the end, to stick it out. And so what I did is I took that concept of diligence and I turned it into a principle, and I said diligence is essential to creating lasting happiness. And so I applied it the month of happiness. Another one is they admired their determination and integrity, or their loyalty to their cause and to the people around them, like Sam in Lord of the Rings. So I took that and I said integrity helps to create more freedom in our lives. Living lives of integrity helps create more freedom. So if you can see that, you just take these principles and these virtues that you feel like your students need to learn and to make them better, because that's really the purpose of education, is to find what is good and to serve it above all else, according to Hicks in Norms of Nobility. And of course, principle-based education, according to Barzan, is the only way to educate, is to educate through principles. So we're incorporating these big ideas of how to apply principles and making it into a working classroom setting. So now you've come up with your 7 monthly themes. Now you're going to want to go through and find classics. Classics can, of course, be people, individuals, art, books, all these different things. Find classics that help to illustrate these different principles. Now the beautiful thing about Vanguard is now you have all these, so take a month, you'll brainstorm about diligence and what historical characters or what books, all these different classics help to illustrate this concept that being diligent leads to greater happiness. Then you take those different ideas and you put them into the 4 lenses. Again, the 4 lenses is how we take one concept and we look at it from these 4 different angles. The first angle is leadership, Leadership Academy. What does it look like? Initial introduction into this concept. We might do word studies or whatnot that week, or look at famous leaders who have lived this, or take leadership skills we want our students to learn and incorporate it into that month. Like diligence, it might be in creating a good work study schedule. So you have all these different ideas floating around. Say, that's going to be leadership week. We'll have fun messing with those later. Just put them over there. Then the second week, Geoconquest, Joan of Arc or Charlemagne. I like to do like a whole, any association or connection you can make makes that deeper. And so for a year, I do like to have kind of a historic theme. You don't have to. But like for me this year, it's going through the Middle Ages through Age of Exploration. So I'm kind of tying them into that along with the months. And so the second week, Geoconquest for diligence might be Joan of Arc or Charlemagne. And they might have them do a map study on Europe or, medieval feast, like I referred to in my my student version of Vanguard. The third week, Eureka, or Face to Face with Einstein, whatever you want to call it. That third week is when you look at science and what has been happening historically, if you're doing that time period, but then also what examples we have within science that show diligence. We also study geology or astronomy. Those are both things that go with it, because both of them require diligence and a long view to things to see how it fits together. So you see how these can tie together, and then you apply them to that concept and learn some cool skill, crest skills at the same time. It's just beautiful. And then you want to tie in imaginative arts, my favorite week. Imaginative arts is like you take everything else you learn throughout the week, throughout the month, and then you internalize it, because imaginative arts is the education of the heart. And so that week you come up, that's when you do your book discussions and you bring your art studies in and all the other cool things that just round it together for their take-home message, what diligence looks like and how it impacts my life. So the end of that month, and then outdoor activities. You can use any one of these tools that are in the Vanguard tool belt, if you want to say. I'm totally stealing that term from other people. But you take the outdoor activity to help impact that. Or you can do game night that month, or you can do a service project. Don't do too many. Just start out with what you want to do. Just simple. But these are all things you can do to help increase that impact. So you can see that as you create that, then you want to start going within those months, now that you've brainstormed those ideas, and you'll want to take each week and say, now what can I make that week look like? Now it's really essential as a mentor that as you're doing it, that you don't intend to, it's not you lecturing and you sharing everything you learned about it. You're trying to create inspirements the month before, or at least the week before, so the students can start looking at those and start generating ideas. And I've written down other articles and done other presentations on how to write inspirements, so refer there. But you want to take inspirements that help them to build and create that knowledge of the principle. So, for instance, one week you might want to do, let's talk about that second week of geoconquest, it's fresh in my mind. So you might want to say, okay, here's our common base of knowledge, because it's really effective to have a common area of knowledge. And so you start with a few things. You don't want to be overwhelming to their studies, just something to kind of taste their appetite. And then from there, that's the knowledge area, and then you want them to create understanding, and that's when they do their inspirements. Okay, and that's when you say, okay, here's some ideas, pick one or several, and then bring them to share. That is essential. Your goal is, as it says in Barzan, is to break it down small enough to their level of understanding so then they themselves can put the pieces together. They themselves do the connections. And that's where it's powerful, and that's where it becomes personalized. That's where you eliminate that resentment, again, that Barzan refers to in Teacher in America, that can be created when a student is there and has to accept the role of a teacher, just imparting knowledge to them. The student recognizes that they have a voice, they have things to offer. And yes, the role of a mentor is essential, but we need to maximize the ability of that student to be engaged in that learning process. So you create the inspirements for that week. Then you'll want to come up with activities that don't take away too much from the time of the inspirements, or you can do guest presenters, or you can do object lessons, whatever it is you need to feel like you do within your time period. You need to decide as a mentor how much time you want it to take. In some years, we felt like it was really important for us to have a good, solid amount of time, so we've been going for like 4 hours a week for our core class, for our apprentice class. And then we'll have journeyman classes, which deepen that level of impact, if you want to refer to those videos or articles. But so as a mentor or mentors, you figure out what your class is, then you create the inspirements for that. And then all along the way, you're thinking, how can this help? How can this process help them to internalize that principle? How can this help them develop a few of those skills that I feel like they need to learn, but never let the skills overshadow the learning of the core and the principle? So I'll refer to my notes real quick, see if that was everything. Yeah, I think that covers everything. So just again, as you're a mentor and you're creating that, creating your list and your classics, just remember the purpose. The purpose always for what this is. It's so that they can self-educate, so they can come and find their voices, so they can come and present, so they can come and feel their impact. Because it's not about you, it's about them. But you should also be showing your enthusiasm and excitement for it in the process, of course. But make sure that it's never becoming what you have to share with them, and it's more what they can discover within themselves. It can be daunting, but if you follow whatever inner source of truth that you have to help you guide you, you'll find ways that that will reach your kids and your youth so they can have that impact that you would hope that they would have through Vanguard. So I hope that helps. Please give me any questions or feedback if you need any help with anything else.